Hello, everybody. This is Jawahar Alvi Juhi, the Clinical Director for BASIS, Behavior and Special Educational Services. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody is staying safe in this pandemic. And the topic that I have for you today is this book, which is called as the PRT Pocket Guide, which is pivotal response training. And this is a pocket guide that I had bought after reading the book that I was reading before. And in this book today, I wanted to talk a little bit about learned helplessness. And this is something that we had talked about before also, but I wanted to go into a little bit more depth of it. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit more. So, what the book says over here is that what is learned helplessness? What the author of the book is Robert Kugel and Linhern Kugel. And it's a pocket guide, but what it says over here is we hate to bring up the early studies on learned helplessness because they are not pleasant, and we personally could have never run such studies, but they do give us interesting insights on behavior. Here goes. A long time ago, a group of researchers led by Martin Seligman did some studies that ended up revealing a phenomena called helplessness. The general paradigm for that research was to harness dogs on top of a pad that gave them electric shocks. At first, the dogs tried desperately to get away, but because they were harnessed, they couldn't escape the shocks. Eventually, they stopped trying to get away, although that makes sense. Fascinating part the most fascinating part is what happened next. The researchers took the harnesses off the dog, and what do you think they did? If you guess that they ran away, you're wrong. Believe it or not, they stood there and continued to let themselves get shocked. Yes, that's what they did. They didn't try to get away, they just simply stood there on the shock pad and endured the pain. In fact, the researchers tried lifting them off the shock pad so they would know what they weren't that they weren't harnessed, but when the researchers put them back on again, they still didn't try to get away. You're probably thinking, what the heck was wrong with those dogs, right? Well, eventually the researchers decided that instead of picking the dogs up off the shock pad, they would nudge them off, giving them a simple little nudge so that the dog would get off the pad on their own. Well, that did it. Once the dogs were prompted to get off on their own, they became motivated to escape, and from then on, they ran off the shock pad. Well, the moral of the story from the conceptual point of view was this: if the dogs understood that their response, jumping off the shock pad, was related to the consequence, which is escaping the shock, they continued to try to get off. Although we don't know whether an exact parallel can be made between animal studies and humans, we do know that a similar phenomena seems to occur with people. That is, if consequences are not contingent, the person stops trying. This effect can happen with both non contingent punishment and non contingent rewards. Think about kids who grow up in very wealthy families and get everything they want. If the things they want are given to them contingently, they are likely to become successful adults. However, if the things are given to them non contingently, they are likely to become lazy and unproductive adults. It's all a matter of child learning how his or her behavior affects the surrounding world. And if positive or negative consequences are delivered non-contingently, there's going to be a problem. So basically what they're trying to do over here is they've also tried to show a little diagram, and in that diagram they show adult puts on the jacket for a child does not help put on the jacket, adult continues to put on the entire jacket, adult stops putting on the jacket for the child does not try to put on the jacket on himself by himself or by herself. This is called as the process of learned helplessness. The next example is adult guides the child to put on the jacket. Child finishes the final step of the jacket. Adult starts to fade assistance with the jacket. Adult stops putting on the jacket and child tries to put the jacket on his or her own. This is called a successful treatment of learned helplessness. So basically, this is the chart that they are showing over here, like this one right here, which shows about how, we fade out the prompts. Now let's talk about what can happen with children with autism. No one will disagree that lots of things are difficult for our children. Talking is difficult, social interaction is difficult, even everyday tasks can be difficult. If well meaning adults help the children too much so that the children do not have to try, they are likely to stop trying. We've seen children who spend most of their day spaced out with adults, physically motoring them through every activity. If someone always dressed a child because he dressed himself too slowly, the child was likely to just stand there and let everyone continue to dress them. Likewise, if a child never was to talk for anything and gets everything she needs while remaining silent, she probably won't start talking. So instead of creating learned helplessness, the idea is to get the kids responding to get them motivated. There are very specific ways to get a child motivated, that is, to get them responding more often, more rapidly, and with more enthusiasm. And this is exactly what we talk about when we talk about learned helplessness. And this topic and this is so important that we are supposed to involve our kids in talking and in asking for stuff, and also in, yeah, getting ourselves ready. So this is like a really important phenomena that parents need to understand that we cannot, parents and caretakers, and I have emphasized this a lot. I have emphasized this in Pakistan, I have emphasized this in the Middle East, I have emphasized this in America also, that all the parents who are working with their children, they cannot make themselves a crutch for the child. They have to make the child become independent. And in order for them to make their child become independent, they have to fade themselves out. How do you fade yourself out is going back to the same example of when you are putting the jacket on for the child and when you are fading yourself out in the next example and you are letting the child do it for themselves. So, this is exactly how, in many different examples, we make the child do the things by themselves and we fade ourselves out. This is true for our kids that have autism, and it is also true for our typically developing kids and adults. I hope that what I taught you or what I talked about learned helplessness, it made sense to you guys. I hope you guys are going to be able to follow that. I hope you guys are going to look into opportunities where you can provide contingencies to the children when they follow the rules or they follow the daily living skill pattern and then they get reinforced for it. I hope that this video of learned helplessness made sense for you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let me know if there are any questions and I can address them in the next video. Have a wonderful day.